Mixtape Podcast.
Yeah, what it do? Mobbing with the crew, nothing new. I thought you knew, thought I was falling off. Blessings keep on falling through. Oh, don't panic, dog. Bro, wait, boo, I can't lose. No, I can't lose.
This is the
Mixtape Podcast.
Mixtape Podcast, episode 18. I'm your host, Josh So Focused.
And I'm French, the bro host. And if you didn't know, we're a weekly podcast where we cover the most intriguing Knicks news of the week. And if you want to find us on our socials, you can check us out first on Twitter at the Knicks Take. Then go to YouTube and search Knicks Take videos. And if you rather follow us on Instagram, you'll find us at the Knicks Take. And lastly on Facebook at Knicks Take Media.
So enthusiastic you are. Where's the energy at? You mean not you me from last week?
It's all about being
Let's
clear.
go. Let's go. Let's
understandable.
Podcast.
go.
I was stumbling a lot last podcast. I want to get things out clearly, pronunciate. You know what I'm saying?
You want to pronounce correctly?
I want to pronounce words correctly. And I want to stop sounding like I'm reading off of a paper so much. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to slide right into the next subject.
There you go. Let's slide right to the next subject, which is...
And let's talk about the NBA Finals, where the Bucks, like I predicted, I felt like I predicted it last episode. What you think?
You didn't predict it.
I said I had a bad feeling that I was going to get proven wrong.
That's not a prediction.
And the Bucks is going to win. I didn't say the Bucks was going to win in 6, but I was feeling like
you told me
Bucks take Game 5
that they would win in 6. That's what you told me. You told me after we recorded the podcast and then we watched the game. You told me whoever wins this is winning. Mm-hmm. And you said, actually, you might have said that on the podcast. And then once the game was over, you said Bucks in 6. But you did not predict that on the podcast.
I ain't gonna say I called it, but I definitely had a feeling that it was gonna be Bucks in 6 when we were recording that pod. But yeah, Bucks won at home in Game 6, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, see, I said his name perfect, Antetokounmpo, dropped a 50 whopper, 50-piece McNugget, 50 points in a closeout game, and took home Finals MVP. You was watching that game, right?
Actually, no. I wasn't watching that game.
Mm-mm.
I
missed out.
I did miss out. But I was so sure that it was going to go 7 that I literally didn't really pay attention until I decided to check the score and the game was already over. And I was like, the Bucks won the championship.
Yep. Yep.
Oh shit! I really thought it was going 7.
That was that was the only game I watched from start to finish because I knew the Bucks was going to win.
When we were watching Game 5, which I watched the end of Game 5, and that was a good game. I'm gonna say that was a game. Mm-hmm. The first half, the Suns put their print on the game, and then in the second half or the middle of the game, I think starting the second quarter to third quarter, Bucks put their imprint on the game, and then to end the game, Phoenix started battling back, and I thought, oh, this might go into overtime, and I only brought up Game 5 because I wanted to talk about how Devin Booker dribbled himself out of a championship.
I ain't gonna say that. Drew Holiday just played elite defense where he couldn't get comfortable.
He dribbled himself into losing the finals. And yes, Holiday definitely played great defense, but
if you was watching the Suns, Devin Booker played like that all year. It just didn't come against someone who was going to be able to shut him down like that.
You can't do that. You can't do that in the closing seconds of the game, man. Like, you know, you need that next shot to go in to tie it, to go take it into overtime, and you just turn the ball over. Like, so that's the only reason I wanted to bring it up.
That's what comes with being the number one option. You gonna be the one to take the shot. You can't pass it off. So
I was watching. I was like, where's he going with this? What's he gonna do? Like, he stole the ball. Oh, the game's over.
alley-oop to Giannis,
And actually, the game actually wasn't over because they still could have. They still could have tied it up after that, but they couldn't grab the ball because Giannis missed the free throw. Giannis missed the free throw, and they were still only up 3. And I think I'm saying this to kind of lead into the topic of. I was reading Jonathan Macri's newsletter about the finals, and he was trying to tie that into the need for a big man. Mm-hmm. And the need for a center, and why maybe we shouldn't spend so much money on Mitchell Robinson. And that shit made no sense to me. I was like, John, why are you ignoring the fact that Robin Lopez played about 20 minutes per game in these finals, and they had Bobby Portis coming off of the bench playing power forward Brook Lopez, excuse me. Yeah, they had him playing 20 minutes of the game. He had some of probably the most important plays during games 5 and 6.
Yeah, but that's pretty much proving his point.
What?
Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis aren't big time centers in the NBA. They are role players.
Yes, I agree with that. But you need them. You need them. He was trying to say like, oh, DeAndre Ayton, like he didn't really make that big of a difference. But the reason the Bucks won, besides the fact that their team defense, their overall defense, just kind of shut Phoenix down. They were bigger. They were the bigger team, and still able to hit threes and all that. Like all the things that bigger teams usually don't have advantages in, the Bucks had. So,
but they weren't paying a lot of dollars to those centers. I think that's what absolutely. Point was.
Yeah, well, he started talking about centers being finals MVPs and stuff like that, but getting Mitchell Robinson to come back isn't like, oh, we need to pay him max dollars and shit like that. Like, no, like bring Mitch back because he is that level of center that you just want to have, like a DeAndre Ayton. Julius Randle is still a big dude. Like Julius Randle could play center. So if you have Mitch and Julius Randle, it's kind of the same thing like the Bucks did. If you have big players across your starting five, why would you compare the Knicks to the Suns as opposed to comparing them to the Bucks? If the Knicks can take control of the boards, can play good defense, they're not getting out rebounded, and they playing great defense across the board, and they can hit their shots. You could go the Bucks route as opposed to the Phoenix Suns route, where you have a lot of smaller guys and you have a power forward sized center.
I don't feel like we need to be replicating what other teams do. I feel like
I'm not saying that either.
The type of players that we have on our team, no matter what type of team that wins the championship, they're not, in my opinion, I don't feel like they're replicating another team. Like the Suns, when you see the Suns play, they look like that's the Suns' offense. You get what I'm saying? Like they run through Devin Booker, they run through Chris Paul. Giannis is the main conductor of their offense. So the way that them two teams got to the finals ain't going to be the way that the next two teams get to the finals. They're going to get to the finals based on what they're strong at, and they're going to hide their weaknesses. So the Knicks have different strengths than what both of these teams have, and they have different weaknesses. So if you could accentuate the strengths, then that's all that's going to really matter at the end of the day. I don't think we need to replicate anybody else.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm sorry if that's how it came off. I'm not saying that we should replicate the Bucks because, I don't think we can. I don't think anybody can replicate the Bucks because Giannis is a one-of-one player in terms of the type of player he is and his size, and that. There's no other Giannis in the league right now. Maybe you could find one in the draft. Maybe Cade could become a Giannis type player, but you're not gonna find that. You're not gonna find that.
There's ever been a player like Giannis.
Like Giannis could play
the game like that.
Giannis could play center. Like honestly, like that's the thing that I'm trying to say is that your small forward / power forward could play center on your team because that's how big and strong he is, and he plays like a god. So and he can do almost anything on the court. The Knicks can't just say, okay, we're gonna put Giannis on. Like, no, that's not gonna happen. But what I am saying is that the path to the championship doesn't mean that you don't have to just pick up a Bobby Portis and a Robin Lopez. Like, is it? They keep confusing me because they're twins, but you don't need to pick up either of the Lopez's. Is what I mean. Like, you don't like that's not. Oh, that was not the defining reason for why the Bucks won. But it also wasn't like unimportant. They needed the center on their team to win the championship. I don't know if they win that without him. Like, I think that this series probably is a little bit different because their rebounding and their size inside was a very important factor. And I don't think that should be discredited. I think that if you have a Mitchell Robinson type player in your team, it can only help you. Now, don't pay 20 to 25 to 30 mil on him, obviously. But if you can bring him back, if you could bring him back on a reasonable deal and have him stay on this team on a reasonable deal, why wouldn't you? If you put DeAndre Ayton on that Bucks team, I would say that team could run it back for the next 2-3 years. I don't think you just say, oh, you don't need it. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, you don't discredit the fact that the center and the big man played an important role for both of these teams in terms of both getting to the finals and for the Bucks winning the championship.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. No argument here.
And I don't have a smooth transition to this, but let's start talking about Sexton. So, we talked about Collin Sexton last week. And actually, on the Facebook page, somebody wrote a comment in regards to another video on YouTube and saying, well, watching this, how does this affect and change how you view that potential deal? Obi Toppin, either 19 or 21 at Kevin Knox for Collin Sexton. Have you thought more about that trade, that potential trade?
No, I feel the exact same way about it now than I did last week. Okay. I see Collin Sexton as a talented scorer, but I don't want to trade Obi and these draft picks or one of these draft picks in a draft this deep when we don't even know what Obi Toppin is going to be yet, and
we don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
And I feel like the guy that we can pick up at 19 and at 21, a combination of all three, if everything works out, is going to equal to more success for the Knicks than one Collin Sexton. Picture if we had Trey Murphy and Trey Mann with those two picks. I'm just saying. Hold on. I'm saying picture those two draft picks and Obi Toppin developing to be a more of a star role player. Is that not worth more to you in your eyes than Collin Sexton alone?
No. I will say no.
That's easy to say when you're not thinking about it.
No, it's easy to it's easy to say either way. You could say yes or no, and it's easy because at the end of the day, we don't know what Trey Mann is going to be in this league. We don't know what Trey Murphy is going to be in this league. You could draft both of them, and they could turn out to be trash, and then you're like, damn, why the hell didn't we trade for Collin Sexton? At that point, it's just Collin Sexton for Obi Toppin, and Collin Sexton. What do you mean? How likely is it? How likely is it that they're both trash?
Yeah. Obi doesn't do anything. Like, how likely is that? I feel like
no. I'm not saying.
Those are
I'm
the
not.
two
I'm not
guys
saying
that I feel like are
Obi.
the most ready to transition to the NBA.
I'm not saying that
in
it's.
those areas.
I'm not saying that it's likely for all three of them to be nothing. However, Obi Toppin, we already talked about this last week. Obi Toppin's going to be coming off the bench behind Julius Randle, and unless you give up, I guess that would have been a better transition. Unless you give up Mitch, and now you have Obi Toppin starting next to Julius Randle. Unless that is the starting lineup, there's not. The future is limited. Yeah, and I don't know how much I like Obi as a 5 more than I like Mitch as a 5. I like Obi as a 4-5 who can switch between both positions, but he's not going to get major minutes at the 4. And like I said, I don't like him as a starting 5. I prefer him behind. So, okay, so now you're saying, okay, maybe we can top him out at 22 minutes a game. Maybe. And that's like cutting Julius's minutes a little bit and cutting Mitch's minutes to a point where he's 30 minutes a game, and you don't give any other bigs any time at the center spot, just Obi.
But why does Obi need to be a starter in order for him to have value in your eyes?
I'm not okay. I don't think
he could continue coming up the bench for the rest of his life, and he can still be a star role player.
I don't think that's an appropriate question, because that you're insinuating that Collin Sexton is valueless.
I'm not saying that.
Oh, yeah, but you're not saying that. I'm not saying that to trade Obi for Collin, because that's the conversation we're having. If Trey Mann and Trey Murphy both don't really amount to much, or if they're just role players and rotation players, that's 3 rotation and role players that you're giving up for a starter in Collin Sexton. That's not. I don't think that it's a clear you have to go one way or another. But for me, and this is where I'll say how much more into the I would 100% do that trade. Collin Sexton fills a need. A. B. Outside of the need of being a point guard and potential playmaker, who we said his playmaking probably isn't that great, but it has improved. Outside of that, he can shoot the 3. He's a threat from 3 at the very least. And even if he's not the best playmaker, he's still a secondary, tertiary playmaker. So you can have Collin Sexton, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett man those playmaking roles while they're starting the game. And that's still a much better option than what we had before. He's young, 22 years old, 2 years younger than Obi Toppin. So he still has the ability to grow. On top of that, you make that deal, you're actually saving yourself some money. You do that deal, you get $4 million more in cap space in shipping out Kevin Knox, Obi Toppin, and one of those picks. So you can still add. That's more money to add a player. All the money that you have now, you can still sign free agents, and you can have $4 million more on top of that. So if you're not so great on Collin Sexton, you could still draft a Sharif Cooper, because we're still talking about keeping one of those picks. You could still draft another point guard, a Trey Mann or whatever. Or if you figured, nope, that's our future, you draft a Trey Murphy. You draft one of these other guys at the wing spot, a Chris Duarte, whoever you want, whoever the Knicks draft at this at this point in the game. You still draft one of those guys. You could still sign really good free agents, have Collin Sexton start. I'll say it. Or you could even have him come off of the bench and start, and you have a starter level point guard in front of him. And then you have Collin Sexton as a restricted free agent, and you can match what any other team would offer him. Or you could sign and trade him if they want him that bad. That is a value with just Collin Sexton by itself, that your additional money, youth that is his long side, that is better than Obi Toppin and not as good as whoever you get in the draft unless you get an older player. Flexibility in your starting rotation. That all of these things are things that are going to aid you when it comes to getting another talent, when it comes to improving your team, when it comes to all of the things that we want to do. The only real caveat as far as like why you wouldn't do this trade, both in what I hear from you and in myself also, is that I don't want to trade Obi Toppin. And the other one would be, I'd rather have 2 picks than 1. But Collin Sexton is not trash. Collin Sexton has shown that
he was.
Yeah, but I'm saying you have to point it out that he's not trash, that he has played for a team that is trash, objectively trash. There's not that many great players around him. I don't think
it's not like he's not a part of the reason why they're trash.
We don't know whether he's a part of the reason that why. We don't know. We've only ever seen Collin Sexton on a team that was bad. How do you know that if you put him on a team that's good, that all of a sudden that team, maybe he doesn't elevate them, but maybe he doesn't make them worse.
But
at the very least, he gives them
who possibly is not going to elevate you. Why trade away so many assets for a player like that?
I don't think that on this team he couldn't elevate us. I think on this team he's going to elevate you just based off of the fact of what was there before. It's addition by subtraction. You want a guy. No, I don't. There's no possible way he can make us worse.
There's
and
no
the reason,
possible way.
No possible
he
way.
Doesn't go peeking thinking he's the number 1 option and tries to score all the points and freezes out his teammates. That's not going to make us worse.
Even if he was to do that, which there's evidence to suggest that he's not that kind of player. Like, yes, is he going to occasionally miss a play or two, according to what he's done in the past? Yes. Is he going to be nut for an entire game? No, he's not going to do that. He has improved his playmaking. He has tried to include his teammates on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's tried to include them in his passing game, and he has improved his assist rate over the past few years. But the reason why,
like, Cleveland don't got nobody on the roster. I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but Cleveland has players on the roster. It's not like he's playing around trash like he did in college. He had guys who were on the finals run with LeBron, Larry Nance. He has Kevin Love on his team. Not to say that Kevin Love is like some all-star or something, but he's not valuable, but he's not a trash NBA player.
He's a trash NBA player today. Yes, he is. Kevin Love.
Garland's trash.
No, but that Darius Garland and Collin Sexton,
whatever his name is.
Yeah, I know. Jared Allen.
Allen.
Collin Sexton is playing the shooting guard role on the Cleveland Cavaliers team. He's not playing the point guard role, and he's been playing the shooting. He's been playing his point guard sized, and they should have been trying to develop his point guard. That aspect of his game in terms of being a point guard, but because they brought in Darius Garland, it was kind of like, all right, let's figure it out. Oh, Darius Garland's better at this, so we're going to just give him the reins. And they never tried to develop Collin Sexton as a point guard, even though he is point guard sized, even though he is probably better defensively trying to defend the other team's point guard. Instead, he's defending the other team's shooting guard, their 2s and their 3s, and that is putting him in a position that is not optimal for him. If you put him on the Knicks and now all of a sudden he's the point guard playing the point guard role, you're putting him in a better position defensively. He can't be any worse than Elfrid Payton was last year. He is not like one of those guys who defends who defends poorly because of a lack of effort. He's one of those guys who defends poorly because of his size. He shoots better than Elfrid Payton, and he does the thing that Tom Thibodeau wants most out of his starting point guard, get in the paint. So
I'm not gonna be giving him roses by comparing him to Elfrid Payton. No matter what point guard we bring into this team next year, they're gonna be better than Elfrid Payton in every aspect.
So you're basically saying what I just said is that there's no possible way that this team could be worse than it was last year, because Elfrid Payton started the majority of the games at point guard. So you take out Elfrid Payton and you put in Collin Sexton, it's not going to get worse. Elfrid Payton has frozen out his teammates too. If you let's not forget that was the knock on him when he was getting a lot of those point guard minutes. So all you're saying is, okay, instead of Elfrid Payton doing it, you having a better player do it, who can score 22 points a game, which Elfrid Payton did not do. You can't convince me at all that the team will be worse because of Collin Sexton.
The team could be worse because of what's leaving the team. You saying
Yes,
Alfred Payton?
I agree.
But Alfred Payton had all these guys off the bench playing with the team too. So, as a collective, Alfred Payton wasn't on the floor for the entire 48 minutes. There was other aspects that brought this team a lot of wins, and if you're trading away those aspects, the bench, the draft picks that would be replacing what we just traded away off the bench, like that's going to have an impact on the team.
The only thing that you're trading from last year that would have an impact on this team is Obi Toppin. We didn't have those draft picks last year. We had Kevin Knox. We had Kevin Knox, but Kevin Knox averaged, 4 minutes a game, 5 minutes a game? He was never a consistent part of this team. So you can miss me with that Kevin Knox and the draft. The only thing that you have a point for is Obi Toppin. And maybe losing Obi Toppin hurts you in some kind of fashion, but I don't think so, because there were a lot of times where we podcasted and I said, Obi Toppin probably shouldn't be playing. He probably shouldn't be getting these minutes. So really, I don't think but it helped him as far as his development and in terms of the team at the end of the season. We're talking about a season-long change, and the only season-long change that is going to be, okay, definitely we're going to be better, assuming we bring back Derrick Rose to come off the bench, is to have a point guard who can do all of the things that Elfrid Payton couldn't. Shoot the three.
Quickly.
We'll talk about, quickly is going to still be on the team. So
that's what I'm saying.
So you're not hurting
out the draft that's going to replace his role.
But you're not hurting quickly by bringing in Collin Sexton.
We know that
because Elfrid Payton quickly has been throughout the season a significant part of the team. And I don't want to go too long on this because we're already about to hit a half hour. But quickly was a significant part of the team from preseason, from the last preseason game when they played against the Cleveland Cavaliers, all the way up until the end. And Elfrid Payton was getting decent minutes when he started. If Quickly came in and he was hot, he got minutes. If he didn't, he didn't get minutes. It's going to be the same thing this season. You put him in the same role he was last year. So you're not losing quickly production in terms of that. The only thing that could hurt quickly production is if Luka Vildoza gets minutes over him for whatever reason. But even then, you could say, well, put Luka Vildoza in the Alec Burks role. I don't see, the only thing that you're losing outside of Obi Toppin is you're replacing Elfrid Payton minutes. And if Collin Sexton can score 20 points per game, yeah, maybe you're taking the ball out of Julius Randle's hands a bit, but we've already said that we need to do that anyway. We need to take the ball out of Julius' hands just a little bit. We don't need him to be bringing down the ball and trying to start the offense every single time. We need other guys who can create, who can get their own bucket, who can help when it comes to playmaking. Collin Sexton ain't gonna hurt that. The only thing he could do is take the ball out of Julius Randle's hands, which we said that we need other guys who can take the ball out of Julius Randle's hands and do something, or hurt RJ Barrett. But even with that, you can help RJ Barrett in other aspects of his game. If we say, Collin Sexton, we need you to pass the ball more, RJ Barrett is going to get the ball, hopefully, more than he did with Elfrid Payton. That's a hope. That's the only thing in this whole thing where I say that's a hope, and hopefully it's a change for the better from Elfrid Payton. But outside of that, you can't convince me that gaining $4 million in cap space, getting a good three-point shooter, a better three-point shooter who shoots over 35% from the three-point line, a guy who gets to the paint, which is something that our coach absolutely loves and needs. Oh, and the main thing, one of the main reasons that's really flipped me, is to hear about Collin Sexton's work ethic. When they talk about Collin Sexton's work ethic, it reminds me of all of the guys, including Obi Toppin, that we already have on this roster, who comes to the gym to start the morning and is in the gym working on his game until the lights go out. That's the type of player that we have throughout this roster that I think that we're gonna keep going after. He's not gonna hurt. He's only gonna help, in my opinion. So, if you can get over your affinity for the picks For the pick,
Picks are going to be players in the NBA.
the pick, yes, but there's
That's
a
what I'm
chance
saying.
that there's a pick that you pick somebody who's not a player in the NBA. There's no one way that you can say 100% guarantee that a guy that you pick is going to be something. And that's the thing. You may miss out on somebody that could have been something, or you could pick somebody who's going to be nothing. That's the gamble with the draft.
Or you can pick somebody who can be better than every player.
Exactly.
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 And
But
we
it's,
have the guys in the front office who know all these prospects and have scouted these prospects from the time that they were kids.
listen, man.
Like, I have nothing but faith in our front office to get this draft right.
I have faith, but if they decide that
and we
they
need
want,
that chances to get it.
if they decide that they want to do that trade for Collin Sexton, you can't be mad at it. That's all I'm saying. You can't be mad
I'm not
at it
gonna be mad
because
at anything they do.
because
Unless they do something stupid.
because that is a really good trade on behalf of the Knicks in terms of you're increasing your cap space, you're getting a young player, a talented player, somebody who's already showed that they could score and score efficiently. That you can't say it's a bad trade. You can only say, I kind of want Obi and I kind of want the pick, but it's a steal as far as I'm concerned. For the rights to, even if you say it's for the rights to pay Collin Sexton, if he has a good year, then you want to pay him. If he has a bad year, he's going to have to find
away a lot.
then he's going to have to find a contract to make it to make it not worth it for you. Who is going to pay him if he had a bad year? They're not. He's restricted.
Sacramento.
If they're not going to overpay Collin Sexton if he had a bad year. They're not going to do that. No team in the NBA is going to overpay for a player that played bad. Not to the point where it's going to be not worth it for the Knicks. So you're playing with house money if you make that trade, in my opinion. So if that,
Speaking of trades,
yeah,
I saw another one that actually did intrigue me. On basketballnews.com, there was a trade offer that kind of intrigued me between New York and OKC. And I wanted to ask you, if you're the GM of the Knicks, would you make a trade with OKC if New York receives Kemba Walker and the 34th pick in his draft, and Oklahoma City receives Kevin Knox in the 21st pick? So basically, you losing out on having 2 first-round picks, but you do gain another high second-round pick.
I would have to say no.
How come?
Kemba Walker's value has plummeted. There's a reason for that. I don't think that the injury concerns are going to stop being concerns if you acquire him. I think that the contract is going to be a concern. I think if I'm looking at it honestly, I'm looking at this trade, the most valuable piece in this trade is not Kemba Walker. It's that 21st pick. I can see that being the potential outcome. That trade happens, and what ends up being the most valuable piece in this trade from today moving forward, the most valuable piece in that trade is the 21st pick. I can see that. Before I continue, what do you think?
Well, I feel like that's how I felt about Sexton. I would actually make this trade because I feel like if you have Kemba Walker on a team and you bring Derrick Rose back and you have Quickly on your roster, you are guaranteed to get solid point guard play for 48 minutes during the game. Kemba Walker's from New York. I feel like he'd play with a lot more passion than he did in Boston. And he's 31, but like he's above 30, but I don't feel like he's getting to that age where it's like he's gonna start slowing down. I still feel like he's a solid point guard. I don't know if he's an all-star anymore, but
He's not.
I feel like he's still productive in his minutes, or he can still be productive, I should say. And Boston just probably wasn't the right place for him to play, and I think he could fit next to RJ and Julius pretty well in the starting five.
Why do you? I mean, it's easy to say that. Why do you think Boston wasn't a good fit for him?
I don't know. Maybe he just didn't like how Boston was racist and was like, yo, I'm out of here. I see why Kyrie left. Or maybe it was just the guys on the team, they wanted to be alpha dog too bad that they didn't want to give up they shots for Kemba, and he just looked worse as a result of that. I feel like if you put him in New York, put the ball in his hands, and you give him, for sure, you give him the what's the word I'm thinking of? The confidence to be the starting point guard of your team. You show him that you're willing to die with him taking the last shot if need be, because he could possibly be the best shooter in the starting five if he's back to the level that he was before he went to Boston.
Listen, I don't know what you on, what you smoking, what you drinking.
He had one bad year.
We're talking about a 31-year-old Kemba Walker.
Yeah, how old is Derrick Rose?
Played 43 games last season.
Mm-hmm.
Who got traded from the Boston Celtics to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Who would potentially trade him back out? There's no upside with Kemba Walker. There's almost assuredly downside. Almost assuredly.
Agree with you.
That's why I said almost. Almost assuredly. Am I saying that he'll never be able to go back up? Like, he scored 19.3 points per game last season after scoring 20.4 the season before, after scoring 25.6 the year before that. Yeah. His three-point percentage took a dip to 36%, which is not terrible, but
it's one bad year. And he's going to be playing around guys that are going to want to know things that he's going to be able to teach.
Why would you play? The Boston Celtics were a good team.
They were an ISO heavy team too.
Yeah, but even still, there's all you're talking about is hypotheticals here, which is not much different than the hypotheticals than what I said about Collin Sexton, except the difference is that Collin Sexton is 22 years old. Collin Sexton is 9 years younger than Kemba Walker, healthier than Kemba Walker,
mm-hmm.
shoots the ball better than Kemba Walker, like scores more points per game than Kemba Walker. Like, I don't understand why you would prefer Kemba Walker outside of the fact that you don't have to give up Obi Toppin.
Experience.
Yeah.
The fact that Kemba Walker was the best player on his team and they made the playoffs. Collin Sexton has no idea what that's like.
Yeah.
So it's not just the aspect of Kemba Walker being on the team for basketball. It's about what he can teach to quickly and our draft picks this year. It's deeper than just what he brings on the court. If we was to bring Chris Paul and he's injured for 3 years out of the 4-year contract, I ain't gonna be mad because the kids on the team are still gaining all the knowledge that Chris Paul has to offer. Kemba knows what it's like to be an all-star. He knows what it's like to be an Olympic champion. He's won gold. He's been around the NBA. He knows what it's like. He knows what the young guys need to be successful. So you're getting that in production on the basketball court if he's able to get back to that level.
That's
why.
And that's the thing. The question is if he's able to get back to that level. I don't think there's any question.
I can live with that if.
There's no question that Collin Sexton is going to be able to do what he did last season. I don't think there's any question that we could say, listen, if we at the very least we're going to ask Collin Sexton to do what he did last year, and he can do it. There is a question as to whether we can ask the same of Kemba Walker. You're taking a gamble and you're using the 21st pick in order to make that gamble for a guy who may be on the decline, as opposed to using that for a guy who is almost assuredly on the rise. Part of me is also confused because you see all of this potential and upside for like Obi Toppin and Quickly and all of these things. But we're talking about a guy who's only been in the league, 3-4 years, who is younger than one of the guys you don't want to give up, but you see no potential upside for him. But you want to bring in, but you
so much about age.
It's not. Oh yeah, you don't care so much about age, but I also mentioned about his work ethic, which should be like a determining factor for you just as much as it is for me. Because if you put his work ethic alongside our development staff and the guys who have made a lot of these players, including Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, better players, you put Collin Sexton in that. Why don't you think that? Why can't you gamble on that upside as opposed to gambling on Kemba Walker's health, his ability to return to his past glory when he's on the wrong side of 30? That doesn't make too much sense to me. I'd much rather have the 21st pick because of the upside of that 21st pick, or at least the ability to trade the 21st pick with something else to get a higher percentage chance at a better player. I would rather do that than to do the Kemba Walker trade.
With the Kemba Walker trade, you're not giving up as much. And
I agree.
You're getting draft pick back, which also allows you to trade back up to get another 20-something pick like we did last year.
I agree.
So you're not giving up much. You're giving up Kevin Knox, the 21st pick, and then another early second-round pick that you also have another one of that can get you right back into the first round.
I agree with you that what you're giving up is less.
So you can still end up with 2 first-round picks and Kemba Walker.
I think that you're looking at the trade for what it is and saying I would do that, but when you're comparing trades, because that's what we're doing. Like in the trade in and of itself, is like I'm leaning towards no. Why am I leaning towards no? Because I don't think that you're improving. I don't think that you're improving your value when you make this trade. You're making you're not or not that you're not. You're gambling. You're gambling on having something better than what you're giving up. Which you're doing in both trades, right? But the gamble is much more risky for this Kemba Walker trade because yes, you can give up the 21st pick for the 34th pick. All right, well, I guess what you're comparing is the 34th pick and Kevin Knox could be equal value, and Kemba Walker and the 21st pick is equal value. And I don't really see it that way. I don't see Kemba Walker and the 34th pick being equal value to Kevin Knox and the 34th. I think that even if you're packaging the 34th pick and 2 other picks to move up in the draft, you could definitely move up way higher with just the 21st pick by itself without Kevin Knox. You can move up higher than all of that combined. Because
that would give you 3 second-round picks, 2 early second and the late second-round pick.
Second-round picks.
OKC will take that.
Second-round picks won't get you higher up in the draft than 1 pick in the 21st. I don't think.
But I'm not saying we'd get a pick higher than the 21st. I'm saying if we get a 24 pick for all 3 of those second-round picks, you can possibly get the same player that you would have drafted at 21, but you add in Kemba Walker. And a part I think you're missing about this trade is the fact that now you have a young guard in Quickly who's going to be able to learn from a former MVP in Derrick Rose still, and a former All-Star in Kemba Walker. Mm-hmm. What do you think that's going to shape Quickly to become? Your point guard of the future. You already have him on the roster. So instead of trading for another point guard, young point guard who's probably going to get in the way of Quickly's development, you're bringing in a guy, a veteran, who knows how to win, knows what it takes to win, knows what it means to be a productive point guard, knows how to become an all-star. You're teaching that all to the young guard on the team.
All of that stuff is valuable.
And you still get your picks.
I'm not disagreeing with you. All of that is valuable.
More valuable to me. Because Collin Sexton going to come in, get his points, and then what?
But
that's it. It's
we
only
don't
basketball from there. What does he
we
teach
don't
anybody else on the team?
But you're already ascribing what's going to happen with Collin Sexton, but you're not. You're doing a hypothetical what if for Kemba Walker. Like, that's not fair. You got to make it even playing field. Just because you view Collin Sexton as a guy who's going to come in and get score and he's not going to play make and that's going to be it, and you have no future. Like, that's not the right way to look at it, man. You have to look at what his potential is, just like you're looking at the potential for Kemba Walker. If you're doing the comparison,
But if
and
I don't
what
see
I'm
it,
saying,
I don't see it.
and what well then you don't see it. That's fine, but that's
what I'm saying.
on you. He's 22 years old with a strong work ethic, with a good 3-point shot, a better 3-point shot than Kemba Walker. You don't know if he could be Kemba Walker or better than Kemba Walker when he as his career goes along. You're judging him on trash years with the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like, how many guys left trash teams, went to good teams, and ended up being all-stars, all-NBA. Like, you not taking that into account just based on this small sample size of his career. And meanwhile, Kemba Walker, you're absolutely right about what he has to offer, what he can bring. But just because you bring him in doesn't necessarily mean that Emmanuel Quickley is going to be this. Like, it's a hypothetical for that too. It's all hypotheticals. Now, the reason why I said I would 100% do the Collin Sexton trade doesn't mean that I think that he's going to do all of this. He's going to be great, whatever. I think that you can use Collin Sexton. Either he's going to be a good piece for your team, or he's going to be a great piece in a trade for you moving forward. In this trade, I don't see you improving what you have to trade with Kemba Walker, because if he even has somewhere close to the same kind of year that he had last year, now you have an albatross of a contract, and you have an aging player that you can't really do as much with as you could with a young player like Collin Sexton. And then you're moving back in the draft. Even if you move back up in the draft, the percentage chance that you have of getting one of those great guys in the draft, you have decreased that possibility by moving back.
He only has 2 more years on his contract.
Okay, that's fine. He has
How's
2
that
more years.
albatross?
He has 2 more years on. It's an albatross if he can't play, if he continues to decline, or if you can't get rid of it.
Trade him for the last year. After 1 year here, you could trade his contract off the books.
Okay, then
what
you
difference
trade,
is that gonna make?
Then you trade him out, and hopefully you can get something. You can put him in as a part of a trade for a good player, and the contracts match up if you include his contract. All right, cool.
Exactly.
We can say that, but what I'm saying is, in the event that you don't do that, what you have with a player who is coming off of a rookie contract compared to Kemba Walker's contract, who is 31, it's not the same. There's more value there with the younger player. And the picks are really the main thing for me with Kemba Walker. Like, I understand giving up a pick for Collin Sexton because he's younger, because he still has upside, because he's already scoring 20 points per game. The picks, even with the swap, it's a bigger thing. All of the guys that I like, they're in a certain range. And I think all of the guys you like are within a certain range too.
I like guys all over the draft. I ain't gonna lie.
I like guys all over the draft too. But as I get further and further into my board, now you have a lot more guys who they need this, and that in order to succeed. Just to succeed in the league. They may be good players and role players or whatever, but just to succeed in the league, they need 1, 2, or 3 things. Badly. Whereas the guys that I'm really, really looking at, they only need maybe like 1 thing. And even if they don't ever get that 1 thing, they'll probably be a rotation player. There's not many guys that I think are going to go past 28 that I think are sure things that you like. If they're there, if you're picking at that spot, that you know that they're at the very least going to contribute to your team. There's a lot of guys that are going to need to work and all that stuff, and I just don't like the idea of trading back. If you're going to trade back, it's got to be worth you have to make it worth it to you somehow, and
I think the front office knows who they're going to draft, so the draft number doesn't matter. As long as they can get the player that they want, that's all that I care about.
But there's no guarantee. That's the thing. Like, I know you've done your research on this draft. This is going to be one of the most interesting drafts that I can remember, because you got guys who have been mocked from getting picked at number 8 all the way down to the second round.
Yep.
Actually, one of the guys that I have that I'm going to talk about later, he could go anywhere in the draft. He could be a lottery pick. He could be picked at 34. I have no clue where he's going to go. I'm just hoping he's going to be available at the spot that I'm thinking that he'll be available at. But I can't even guarantee you that. I could have made him my guy I would trade up for, because I actually think that he might be a guy that I would trade up for. Or he could be a guy that could be had at 32. I really don't know. And that's the thing with this draft, is that all of the guys that we both like, they could be gone by 20. Yeah. That we really, really like. Or that we think could contribute on this team today. They could be gone at 20. And we could be left like, okay, maybe we got Sharif, but I don't know who the hell we should pick next.
There's always going to be someone left, because if guys move up, other guys are getting pushed back. And
Absolutely.
Guys who are getting pushed back can possibly help your team more than the guys that you probably liked and expected to be around.
You said probably like 3 times just now.
My bad. But I feel as long as you're in the first round vicinity, you can get a player that you're comfortable with.
I think
and that's why I don't feel comfortable with the Sexton trade, because you're giving up too much, in my opinion.
You're not giving up too much, man.
Enough of Collin Sexton. Let's get to the draft, since we're talking about it so much.
Yeah. So last week we talked about it. We're going to do a quick recap of French's picks from last week. So last week, French said he would trade up for Josh Giddey.
Australian. Shout out to the Australian listeners.
I had a question for you. Actually, I already know the answer to this question. So I'm gonna pose it in a different way. We said that you would rather trade up for Sharif Cooper than trade up for Giddey.
Well, now it's seeming like Sharif is falling in everybody's eyes who's in any way connected to the NBA draft.
But
so
answer my question though. Like, if the Knicks felt like they had to choose between trading up for Giddey or trading up for Sharif Cooper, your preference would be what?
Cooper.
Okay. So sorry, what were you about to say?
No, I was going to say non-God.
Okay. So I have some other guys that I want to ask, but I'm going to ask you after we talk about the rest of your picks. At 19, you said Sharif Cooper, which I convinced you to leave him at 19. I don't think that he's going to get picked before 19. He has not even been invited to the green room as one of the 20 players that are going to be in the area when they do the draft lottery. So Sharif won't be there. He'll be at home with a camera on him if he gets picked at 19. At 21, you said Kai Jones. Mm-hmm. At 32, you said BJ Boston.
Yep. Kai Jones could be our backup big man, and BJ could go to the G League for like a good year or so.
So we didn't do this last week, but I think it's good for us to kind of mention guys, for those of you who aren't vested in the draft, that are going to be taken in the lottery, guys that we don't think the Knicks are going to be able to trade up for because they're just way too high and they have way too much upside or they have way too much talent. We think that Cade Cunningham is definitely going number 1.
Mm-hmm. Baby Grant Hill and Chris Middleton right there.
In all the mock drafts, the next 3 or 4 are Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes.
Caught a cramp just now.
You got to stretch, brother. Say that the Knicks could pick number 2.
Cade.
Cade's not going to be there at number 2. At pick number 2, who would you pick between those 4 guys? Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes for the Knicks.
Jalen Green.
Okay.
I like Green more than I'm not gonna lie. There's probably 2 guys in this top 6 that I don't trust.
Mm-hmm. I haven't said number 6 yet, but number 6, Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah.
Jonathan Kuminga is one of those guys that is probably going to be gone by the end of 10, but he also could fall to the Knicks. Like a lot of it, it's highly improbable. I don't think that he will. But Kuminga is mostly based on upside than the rest of these guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought Jonathan Kuminga up because he's one of my 2 that I just don't trust. I'd rather have Cam Thomas than Kuminga because you're betting on Jonathan Kuminga to learn how to play basketball.
He knows how to play basketball. Let's not shit on him like that.
No. I'm talking about at the NBA level though.
Right.
Like he's good. He's good for his size. He can do a lot of things.
He has NBA skills.
If he don't figure it out, he's gonna look really bad.
Right.
And the other guy is Jalen Suggs. I wouldn't want to draft him that high up. He's good, but not top 5 good to me. I feel like he's getting a little overhyped.
Why do you think he's overhyped? Or what is it about his game you don't like?
It's not that I don't like. I just don't see how he's much better than a lot of the other guys that's in the top 10. I feel like because he got so deep into the tournament, that brought his stock up a lot higher than it probably should be. But if I got a top 5 pick, I don't know if I would want to spend it on Suggs. I'd probably feel a lot more comfortable with Evan Mobley.
Suggs and Green were on the same team in the G League Ignite.
Nah, Suggs wasn't on the G League. Suggs was playing in college.
Okay.
He went to Gonzaga.
Okay, yeah. Jalen Green was in the G League.
Yeah, Jalen Green was on the Ignite with
Kuminga. I got to look at my notes, but Jalen Suggs and Jalen Green both were pretty good in different aspects. Jalen Suggs is considered one of the best playmakers coming out of this draft, whereas Jalen Green is considered one of the best one-on-one scorers and finishers in the draft. So I think you're right in terms of how much upside. I think Jalen Green's upside and his potential to be a star player and the type of guy that you would want to pick in the top 3, I think that, yeah, Jalen Green is probably your better bet. But I think Jalen Suggs can be worth that top 3 pick also. It's just going to be not in the same kind of way that Jalen Green is. And if Jalen Green...
a star?
Maybe not. I think that if they both hit, Jalen Green is going to be the bigger star than Jalen Suggs. But I think that Jalen Suggs might have a just very slightly higher percentage chance of hitting, but maybe not being a star. Let me say that.
I kind of want to take back the Evan Mobley comment. I don't know if I trust Evan Mobley more than Suggs. I do like Scotty Barnes a lot, though.
I like Scotty Barnes also, and I kind of was hoping that there was a possibility that he would fall to us, but there's no possibility. There's no possibility.
We could make a trade with Golden State and get that 7th pick.
Nah, I don't think Golden State is doing that. Even if we could, I think we would have to give up way too much, and I don't think I'm comfortable giving up that much for Scotty Barnes. And I think he's going to be one of the best players in this draft. You want to say a little something about Scotty Barnes? He's an athletic wing who can defend and can pass, play make. He can do a little bit of everything. He's going to be good, man. Like I don't see a lot of paths for him to fail. Maybe he won't be an all-star, but
safe.
He's going to contribute and he can start on your team today. Not like how Obi Toppin can come on your team and start from last season. No, like I see that there's minimal chance that he can't contribute to your team and be a starter if you're a bad team, or be a 6th, 7th man on a really good team. I don't see how it's not possible.
Yeah, he looks like a longer DeAndre Hunter.
All right, so those are the 6 guys that we don't think the Knicks can trade up for. There's a few other guys that I don't think the Knicks can, but the only reason I only listed 6 guys, we only listed 6 guys, is because of something that I said earlier. This draft is just so full of guys that can go from anywhere from top 10 to 25 or from 14 to end of the second round. Like, I think I mentioned in the podcast before how Sharif Cooper in somebody's mind, and I think NBADraft.net, they got him going like 35th or something like that. And while I think that is, I think that's impossible. I also can see Sharif Cooper going I don't think there's any chance Sharif Cooper goes into the second round, but I can see him falling to 28, 29.
Oh, that's disrespectful too.
No, I can see it, and it's not because Sharif Cooper is going to be trash or that, you know, he's guaranteed to fail. I think that when you're looking at so many guys, and me and you have looked at most of these guys over the past 3, 4, 5 weeks, you start to kind of lose. You can't really focus. Like, when you can focus on one guy, like, you have to really focus on Sharif Cooper to say, that's the pick. That's the guy that I want in this team. I think he's going to be our future starter. I don't see a lot of room for him to fail. We just have to make sure that his few weaknesses, we can cover them. But outside of that, he's going to succeed. And that's what I think about Sharif Cooper. I don't agree. I think that Sharif Cooper, the only reason he's not, everyone says this, the only reason he's not a lottery pick is because of his poor shooting and his poor finishing. But it's mostly the shooting. If you're not at 6'1", 6 foot, he's not even 6'1". He's 6 foot probably. He's undersized for a point guard. And if you're undersized as a point guard, you need to know how to shoot. Shooting across the board actually is important at the NBA, but it's definitely important as a point guard. And everybody's seeing that, and they're seeing that little hitch where he's moving backwards as he's shooting, and he's not hitting at a great rate. That's the only reason he's not a lottery talent. Because anything else, he fixed it for the combine, but he hasn't. Nobody has seen that he's fixed it in game. And I think that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we can look at the tape and see that jump shot looks good when he's showing that he's shooting that way, and he's not really in a game. He didn't really scrimmage for the combine. I think that is going to scare. That's why he's falling to 19. If he fixed it already, he'd be top 12, top 13, top 14, not potentially falling all the way down to the Knicks.
But any time before college, he never appeared to struggle with his jump shot, and that's why I don't feel like.
But that's my point.
That's a big issue, and he shot 82% from the free throw line, which is a good indicator of you being a better shooter.
But you're making my point for me, which is that you have to really focus on Sharif Cooper and only Sharif Cooper to see that his weaknesses, you're looking at a small sample size and you're nitpicking as opposed to looking at his career as a whole and really investing your time into what he can be and what he has shown and the work he's put in, and to say, like, you know, Sharif Cooper is going to be a guy. He's he's a top 2 or 3 passer in this draft, and he may even be the best passer in this draft. He's got one of the best handles in this draft. He can finish. His percentages are trash, but he can finish. He had trash level teammates. But sorry, that was French's pick last week. So let me stop talking about Sharif Cooper. The point that I was really trying to make was that you have guys that are going to go. They can go all over in this draft potentially. Maybe some of the NBA GMs, they're going to look at the guys that me and French are talking about between this week and last week, and just look at them the same way we do, and the draft kind of goes the way we expect it to. Maybe one of these guys that we want, they're not going to be available to us at 19 or 21. That's potentially possible. Maybe some of these guys are going to fall down to the second round. That's also possible. Without further ado, let's get to me.
Let's get to your picks.
1 hour into the pod. Who would I trade up for? So the guy that I chose is Moses Moody. And I quibbled with myself about picking Moses Moody. Why? Because I think that there is a greater than 50% chance that Moses Moody will not be available at any point that I think that the Knicks can draft up to, which I think that the Knicks can draft up to
13.
Can trade up to 13. When we preview this, we said 10 to 18, but I don't think the Knicks can trade up to 10, 11, or 12. I think 13 is probably the highest they can get up to. And there is not a great chance that Moses Moody is available at 13. But if he is...
Well, New Orleans is shopping that 10th pick.
Even still, the problem with me is what you give up for. Is what you give up for that pick going to be worth that player? It's a gamble. If you hit on that gamble, oh, geez, you scored. But if you miss, it's probably one of the worst things that you could possibly do, especially when you have 4 picks throughout the draft the way that the Knicks do. So let's talk about Moses Moody. Moses Moody, I think, is a potential top 10 pick. 19 years old. He's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. Gotta enunciate. He's a good 3-and-D wing with shot creation potential, which is why he's going to be drafted so high. When you watch this kid play on the court, you see that his ability to put the ball on the court, put the ball, dribble, get to spots. He's not just a 3-and-D guy where if he gets the ball at 3-point line and you shut him down, that's all he can. No, he can shoot off the dribble a little bit. He's shown an ability to play make a little bit also. He's got good shot creation potential. He's got potential to become one of the best wings in the league if he could increase his finishing, his athleticism, and his strength. Just you could see with him that part of his problem when it comes to getting into the paint is his inability to finish has to do with his strength and his ability to take contact and finish through contact. If he can figure that out, his ability to dribble a little bit, his ability to pass a little bit, that's only going to increase his game, and then he'll be, at the very worst, if he can fix those things, a solid starter at the very worst. He's able to create fouls, and he sells them at an NBA level. So I wrote in my notes, it's honestly hard for me to justify trading both 19 and 21 to get Moses Moody. But if there's a possibility of keeping one of those picks while sacrificing the other to trade up and get him, I wouldn't hesitate. I wouldn't hesitate for that because I think that if you could do that, you hit the lotto.
You want to know why I personally wouldn't trade up for Moses Moody? Because you remember how I said a couple players scare me. I forgot who I was talking about, and I said they remind me of Alonzo Trier.
Yeah.
Moses Moody reminds me of a taller Malik Monk. And if I'm going to be trading up for somebody, I want somebody who I feel like has star potential.
I think he has star potential. However, his star potential is not super high. I think there is a cap, but he is, let me just remind myself. Yeah, he's only 19 years old. He can still upgrade his game, and I don't see the limitations in his game to prevent him from becoming a star the way that some of the guys later on that I'm going to mention, there are limitations to them that I don't think he has. I think that the Malik Monk comparison is cool, but Malik Monk also had a pretty decent year this past season. He's showing now that he could potentially contribute to an NBA team and be a good player now that his rookie contract's almost up.
But do you see Malik Monk being a star?
I don't see him being a star, but that's because we've seen what he's been already. I think that it's just you have to see what Moses Moody will be in the league before you start capping him like that. From what I've seen, from what he's done in college, I'm not willing to say that he can't be a star. I just think that the path to him getting there is definitely not great. I'll say that. But it's things that he can fix. He can be stronger. He can just get a little bit more athletic, and he can be a better decision maker. And then all of a sudden, you're talking about a guy who can defend, who can shoot, who will, if he can improve his finishing, who can draw fouls, who can create off the dribble a little bit, who can pass a little bit. That's a star. That's a star player potentially. He just has to fix those things, but those are big things to ask. But I agree that just the fact that you have to ask those questions, yeah, you don't give up 2 picks for that.
Exactly.
You give up 2 picks for a guy who you know is going to be a star, and if the Knicks were to make that trade, they must know he's going to be a star. Otherwise, somebody might be getting fired.
So basically, what we're saying is we don't feel like anybody is worth trading up for. Because if the person that you would trade up for is Moses Moody, and you don't even feel comfortable actually pulling off that trade, and I feel like Josh Giddey, but I don't even really feel comfortable. I'd rather have Sharif Cooper. It's pretty much saying that we'd rather stay pat at 19 and 21.
I would, simply because I think that at the very worst, if you stay at 19 or 21, you're definitely going to get one guy who's going to hit. And when I say hit, I mean they are going to start either this year or next year. And at 19, I said that I would select Jared Butler. Now, I'm gonna give you guys the caveat. Me and French are not picking the same people purposely. All right, I would probably let me say this, and I know French is going to disagree with me when I say this. If we get to pick 19 and both Sharif Cooper and Jared Butler are on the board, I'm going to be. If I made the decision, if I was making a decision, I'd be unsure. I think that Sharif Cooper has way more upside as a potential star player than Jared Butler does. But Jared Butler is already a really, really, he's one of the best. He's one of the best playmakers. He's not one of the top 5 the way that Sharif Cooper is, but he can pass the ball.
He's not going to ever hurt you.
He's not going to hurt you at all. He's a good defender. He's a good shooter. He's a good passer. He's not going to wow you at all, but he's not going to hurt you. He's a crafty, high IQ guard, and if he's available at 19, you take him. I don't see how you don't take him. But you can't say that. You can't say that and then say, but I want Sharif Cooper at 19, right? That's the conundrum, because if he falls, he is legitimately, if you look at what he did in college, if you look at what he did in his junior year, he's a young junior too. He's 20 years old. He just turned 22. He's going to be 20. He's going to be 20. He's going to turn 21 next June. So he's a young 20-year-old, 6'4", which is a good size for a point guard, or they list him as a combo guard, but he averaged 9 assists per game, 2.2 steals per game, shot 43.5% from 3, which makes him an elite shooter. The only reason why Jared Butler is potentially falling to 19 or worse is because he has a heart condition that even in college they flagged, just wanted to check him out, make sure that he wasn't going to die in the court, and they let him play in college. And now he made that leap to the NBA. The NBA has put in something to make sure that he's not, that's the same thing, he's not going to die in the court. That caused him to miss out on the a lot of the draft combine stuff. He wasn't able to scrimmage. He wasn't able to do anything with any teams, really. All he could really do all he's really been able to do is interview at this point. If not for that heart condition, if not for him being flagged and not being able to participate in any of the combine stuff, I don't see how Jared Butler would not be a lottery prospect. And his teammate Davion Mitchell is considered a lottery prospect, but based on everything that I've seen, outside of the defense, I don't see how Davion Mitchell is better than Jared Butler. I think Jared Butler gives you more on both sides of the court overall. The only thing is that Jared Butler is older and is a junior, whereas Davion Mitchell is not. But I would pick Jared Butler before Davion Mitchell.
I got to correct you on something real quick. You said he averaged 9.5 assists. That's not true. He averaged 4.8 this last season.
Oh, okay.
But Jared Butler, I feel like he's not the sexy pick, but he's definitely like he's a pick that you would love when he's on your team and you're actually watching what he does for your team. Mm-hmm. He provides everything that you want from a point guard. And Sharif and him are kind of like opposites because Sharif is going to be the flair point guard, the flashy point guard, and Jared Butler's just going to be the one who's going to just get the job done, the Kawhi level type of point guard, where you ain't watching his highlights, but you love everything he's doing when he's helping your team get to the win. And yeah, I feel like he's been really underrated in this draft because of that. But when you look at what he provides, it's just like he's really valuable. Like, I don't know if I would compare him to Malcolm Brogdon, but if you want to think about the type of player that I can see him becoming, I see him becoming a kind of Malcolm Brogdon type of player where he just does everything right on the court because he has such a high basketball IQ.
I'm trying to.
But that's pick number 21, right?
That was actually pick number 19 because you had already selected Sharif Cooper, who would have been my 19 if not for that.
Well, who's your pick at 21 then?
I think when I said 9.5, that I was looking at his efficiency instead of his assists. My number 21 pick before.
Previously mentioned earlier in this podcast.
Yes, that was Trey Murphy III. Now, Trey Murphy is also one of those guys who can get picked anywhere in this draft. In my notes, he's a potential lottery pick. He could go at 13, 14, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he will. He is 21 years old, junior. 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan, slightly taller than Moses Moody, but he can guard the positions 1 through 4. He's great on the switch, great instincts on defense, both on and off the ball. He's gotten some steals because of his long wingspan, but he's also able to stay in front of whoever you put in front of him. When it comes to the pick, he's able to recover and make great reads when he gets picked. It's a good 3-and-D wing with shot creation potential. I don't think his potential with shot creation, though, is as good and as certain as Moses Moody. I think that if you're going to make that bet between the two in terms of shot creation, ability to shoot off the dribble, ability to pass out of the dribble, you make that bet with Moses Moody as opposed to Trey Murphy. Moody is younger and has shown more when it comes to shot creation than I think Trey Murphy has, although Trey Murphy has shown a little something. But at the same token, I think that you could say the reason why Trey Murphy hasn't shown as much is because Virginia didn't allow him to show that aspect of his game due to the system that they ran.
Right.
So part of the thing with picking Trey Murphy is that you're gambling on all of the things that he's not showing you because of the system. And you're assuming that what he's shown is not all that he has. Whereas with Moses Moody, you've seen all that he's shown all he can show. Now, in order for Trey Murphy to succeed, he's got to increase strength just the way that Moses Moody does. But unlike Moses Moody, he's got to increase his handle and his rebounding abilities. Moses Moody has a better handle than Trey Murphy, but Trey Murphy is way more athletic and is able to finish way better than Moses Moody. When you watch Trey Murphy and you see him cut into the basket and they pass him the ball and he's getting up way up high and he's yamming it on somebody. Like, Trey Murphy is a pretty damn good finisher, a pretty damn good athlete, The only thing is that sometimes he gets into trouble when it comes to making decisions when the ball's in his hand or when it comes to dribbling the ball. He doesn't have the best handle.
Right.
If he could work on that handle, he's going to start. He's going to start for your team. I think that's really all it is. Like, strength is an issue too. I think when it comes to like the bigger players, he's going to have a little bit of issues. But if you have him at the 3 spot, which he would be at 3 spot on this team, the fact that you have a guy who can rotate and guard anybody is invaluable. And if you're telling me I either have to give up 19 and 21 to move up for Moody, or Trey Murphy is going to drop to 21 and I take the chance on Trey Murphy, I'm taking Trey Murphy, because even though I think Moody has the higher upside, I think Trey Murphy, what we would need Moody to do and what we would need Murphy to do, they both are capable of doing the same things, and that's all we really need. So I'm not giving up 2 picks for Moody when I can have Trey Murphy, who I think is going to be a player and a contributor now today. Let me see if there's anything else.
He's been moving up draft boards according to a lot of the draft experts. A lot of teams are starting to bring him around for workouts, so the Knicks just worked him out too.
Yep.
We'll speak about that later, but going on to your 32.
Just the last thing I want to say about Trey Murphy. I hear that he's one of those guys who gets in the gym and wants to keep practicing and keep working on his game. Much like I said earlier about Collin Sexton, if that's the case, yeah, that's a guy that I want on this team. This front office seems to want to have guys who are willing to work on their game endlessly and aren't afraid of being coached and aren't afraid of work, and are willing to put in the effort to clean up the miscues in their game. If that's the type of player Trey Murphy is, I 100% want him on this team.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the super role players in the NBA, I feel like. One of the guys that's never going to hurt you unless he's being forced to create his own shot.
I'm even looking at him like, say the Knicks aren't able to pick anybody up in free agency. If the Knicks draft, say, Sharif Cooper and Trey Murphy, I could see Trey Murphy getting the start before Sharif Cooper and thriving in that.
Taking Burke's spot.
Or Reggie Bullock's spot and thriving at that role.
I think he's coming back. I think Bullock is coming back. Bullock will probably come off the bench, but I think Bullock is definitely coming back.
Well, I will say this. If Murphy is able to defend as strong in the NBA as he did in college, why would you not start him over Reggie Bullock?
No, I'm saying even if he does come and starts, I still feel like Reggie Bullock could come back and just come off the bench.
But what I'm saying is he would be taking Reggie Bullock's spot, because Reggie Bullock was the guy who, whoever it is that Tibbs thought that RJ couldn't handle, he put Bullock on them.
Right.
You could do the same thing with Trey Murphy and do it well. So
not immediately.
In the starting lineup, that's, if Murphy proves to be as adept at doing that at the NBA level, yeah, why wouldn't you give him that Reggie Bullock spot? Yeah, Reggie Bullock could still be on the team, but he wouldn't be the starter, which is the thing. He started because that was what we needed from that starting lineup, somebody to guard the guy that RJ couldn't.
Right. Trey Murphy could be that, but I'm saying to start his career, he's probably not going to be.
Yeah, probably not
taking Bullock's position, because Bullock is a vet still.
We'll talk about
once he proves that he could handle that spotlight and he could guard all the talented wings in the NBA. I feel like he's definitely going to be starter level, at least before Cooper will.
We'll talk about Bullock later. I don't think it's a sure thing that Bullock is coming back. So at 32, I had a lot of guys mocked in this spot, but if I had to guess, some of the guys even guys that I think like they have a great range that they could fall to 32, I think that there's no chance that they fall to 32. I had Corey Kispert there. I think Corey Kispert is definitely going to get picked up before 32. He probably is going to get picked up before 21 and 19. But I also see Corey Kispert falling because he got exposed. His defense got exposed. And really, if you pick up Corey Kispert, it's mainly for the offensive side of the ball and not so much on the defensive side. Not that he's going to be total dirt on defense, but he's limited.
And he's limited on offense, too. He can't create his own shot. It'll be for his shooting and for his cutting.
Well, Corey Kispert can do more than Reggie Bullock can. I'm going to say that. Corey Kispert, when he comes into the league, he's going to be able to do more off the dribble than Reggie Bullock. Mm-hmm. Is that saying much? No. But if you can cover him up on defense, you can probably start him because of just how he's one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient players in college basketball because of his range from three, where he's good from everywhere behind the 3-point line. But he can also finish. He can also finish in the paint, and he can also shoot off the dribble. So he's limited beyond those things. Let's get that clear. But beyond those things, he's very limited. But that's a good offensive player. That's a guy who's going to contribute to your team. But that's also why, like, he has no upside. This is all he's going to do for you. He can go in the second round, but I highly doubt that he will because of how efficient he is, because of what he can bring to the team. I also had Chris Duarte, who I didn't even put in my notes, French. But I had Chris Duarte, but I've seen Chris Duarte mocked in the top 20, and for good reason. The only reason why he would fall to 32 is because he's 24 years old. He's already almost in his prime, and he's going to be a rookie in the NBA. But he's one of those guys who is good at everything. He doesn't really have too many weaknesses in his game, although I would argue that he's probably going to be dirt on defense when he comes into the league. If I had to guess, I don't think he's going to be a good defender, but he's not god-awful. I think that he's going to be probably Obi Toppin level on defense when he comes into the league. But Chris Duarte, I kind of had mocked at 32. I had Trey Mann. Trey Mann probably ain't going to fall to 32. I can
guarantee you he's not falling.
I wouldn't be so sure to make a guarantee like that, but I'm almost there with you. It's a very, very low chance that he's going to fall down to the second round. Trey Mann is has probably some of the best handles in this class. Like every time I read something about him, rates 1 of 1 in ankle breakers in the draft. Like he's got damn good handles. His pick and roll scoring is top notch. Trey Mann is going to help some team, even if it's a microwave scorer off the bench.
Yep. What you so far?
I also mocked Miles McBride, but I also think that Miles McBride is probably going to get taken before 32.
Deuce. He could fall though.
He could fall.
But he's realistic at 32.
I just have a strong feeling because he's one of those guys that it's like, okay, you're good at that. You've improved. The last article I read about him compared him to, I think, Donovan Mitchell in terms of coming into the draft, the improvement in his game, the funky kind of pre-draft history where he didn't really have too much basketball, when he was 18, 17, whatever. So he was playing other sports and stuff like that, and he didn't really commit to basketball, and yet he still improved in certain areas. Like, I just think somebody's going to look at him, see Donovan Mitchell, and grab him before 32. Maybe he'll make it to the second round, but I don't think he'll make it to 32. He might get picked at 30 or 31 at the very worst. But the guy that I'm pretty sure is going to make it to 32, Bones Highland. So,
baby IQ.
Yeah, that's basically what he is. 6'3" with a 6'9" wingspan. That's the only thing that I would say he does that separates him from Quickly. Quickly doesn't really have much of a wingspan, whereas Bones has a 6'9" wingspan, which is important. 3-level scorer, another difference between him and Quickly. Quickly you can't call him a 3-level scorer. You can say that Quickly can do the floater and shoot the 3, and he has the potential to be 3-level, but not quite. Bones Highland is legitimately a 3-level scorer. He can score in the paint. He can score in mid-range. He can score from 3. He can score from half court. He has a lot of flash, a lot of pizzazz, super crafty. He was probably the most impressive player when it came to the draft combine when they did the scrimmages. He went out there and he made an impact, not just as a scorer, but as a playmaker as well.
Quickly's wingspan is actually 6'9" as well.
What? Wait, I could have swore Quickly's wingspan was not 6'9". I could have swore I could have swore it was even.
He's 6'3" and 6'9" wingspan.
Oh shit!
They're literally the same player.
I did. I guess
just
you're
Googled
right.
it.
I guess you're right. I could have swore Quickly's wingspan was like 6'3", 6'4".
I remember watching when he first got on the court. I'm like, damn, this nigga long ass arms.
You know what?
For a point guard.
Watching Frank Ntilikina for so long, everybody seems like they have like a square wingspan because Frank's wingspan is like 7'1", something like that. And I'm like, God damn, Frank looked like he could touch the floor standing up. Anyway, all right, so they're basically the same player outside of the fact that Bones Highland, I think, already is further along as a playmaker and as a 3-level scorer than Quickly. Bones is great at playing the passing lanes, but needs to improve on not getting caught in the screen. He kind of dies on the screen a little bit, which is pretty much primarily what makes him a bad defender. But the fact that he has a 6'9" wingspan, he's already shown like how impactful he can be defensively. He just needs to have better IQ on defense and not getting caught on the screen. Right. He's a bucket getter, full stop. I really like his game. And yeah, those are my picks.
He was bugging in the combine.
Bugging. But he was playing against other guys who are going to be in the second round, maybe a guy or two here that kind of rose, but that was the guy. So some of our favorite picks who did not make it our selections, we already talked about them. Corey Kispert, Trey Mann, Miles McBride. The one guy we did not talk about, Zaire Williams. You have any thoughts on Zaire? Would you take
another one of them players who has to? Yeah, he scares me. He got to learn how to play basketball. He has like the body of someone that you would want to be on your team. Perfect wingspan, perfect height. Does the right things, but when you just watch him play, you start to realize like he doesn't really understand the flow of the game and what's going on.
All right.
I don't know if you could be in the NBA and you could do that.
Let me pose you this question. Cade, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, Sharif Cooper, Moses Moody, Jared Butler, Trey Murphy are all selected before 19. Do you pick Zaire at 19?
No.
Who do you pick? Trey Mann?
Trey Mann.
Okay. Trey Mann. Knicks pick Trey Mann at 19. Then
Isaiah
Hawks,
Jackson at 21.
Okay. So you like Isaiah Jackson?
Yeah, that's baby Mitch right there. As long as I got someone to compare you to in the NBA and I see your potential possibly being higher than them, I'm sold. I'm easy to please. I'm sold.
You don't like Zaire Williams' potential?
I don't like him as a basketball player.
Okay.
I like his potential, but you have to also meet the potential to make it a reality. If you can't stay on the court because you're not understanding the plays and you're not, I don't trust Zaire. That's just me. He has the body, he has the talent, but the game is mental in the NBA. And if you can't keep up with that, then I don't know how long you're going to last. That's why I don't trust Kuminga either.
I'm trying to... Okay. I think I just found it. I was trying to remember the Strickland's devil's advocate argument for Zaire Williams. So they said he is a skinny tweener guard/wing who struggled to get to the rim and finish. While he showed flashes of step backs in deep range, the flashes were too few and far between. Is it worth using a first round pick on a guy who seems like he'll rely on the dribble? So that was the argument to not pick him. The sales pitch, which is what I was really looking for. He showed flashes of elite shot creation during his freshman year. He had flashes of decent playmaking and very good defensive tools. He has an insane motor, which is what I like. Ever since Kevin Knox, the knock on him was not having a motor. I'm like, yo, if I hear that you don't have a good motor, I don't want you. I don't care how good your game could be. I don't care about the prospects. If you don't have a good motor, I don't want you. Right?
It's funny you say Kevin Knox because that's exactly who I was going to compare him to.
But that's the thing. Kevin Knox was knocked for not always having an insane. He didn't have an insane motor. Actually, the motor, whether he had a motor like a good motor, that was his knock. And
no, I wasn't going to compare him as a player.
But it's the scariness.
Pick.
Yeah. It's scary because you knew that Kevin Knox had shit to work on, and you know that Zaire has things to work on.
Mm-hmm. It's basically a Kevin Knox pick all over again.
Except Kevin Knox was picked in the top 8, and we're talking about picking Zaire at 19 or 21. And
the talent level in 1921 is pretty equivalent to the talent level in that section of that type of draft. I mean, not that type, that exact draft.
So Knicks draft, who I've read some of their stuff, but who assists with the Strickland, they said he's a prospect with a pretty wide range of outcomes, with those outcomes being anything from multi-time All-Star to out of the league within 5 years. I'm willing to bet on him getting closer to the former. Putting him into an NBA strength and conditioning problems should solve many of his problems and help him better utilize his unique skill set. If we're just talking about feeding this dude some more meat and fucking putting him in the weight room, and now he's a good player.
That ain't no.
I'm only saying that as somebody who I would want to take a shot, because when you draft, you can't just think about the safe play. You kind of have to think about who has high upside, and I think Zaire is one of those guys who has high upside that I don't think we're talking about a draft bust, who didn't play well, who can fall, that I think that I want. But I don't want him over. I don't think there's any possibility that our top 3 guys all fall. I don't think there's any possibility that they all kind of go before 19. And that's the thing, like, or not even before 19. They all go before 21. I think if any of your top 3 guys and many of my top 3 guys fall to 20 to 21, I'm picking them before Zaire. But I just want to say that it's close. Like, I would take Modi before him. I would take Butler before him. I'd take Trey Murphy before him. I'd take Giddey before him. I'd take Cooper before him. I may not take Kai Jones before him.
Yeah, I'm done with the potential picks. Kai Jones is the closest thing that I feel comfortable drafting with in terms of potential, because he's shown things that he can do at the NBA level right now. If you can't do things at the NBA level right now, I don't want to draft you. Well,
that's because you shook money.
No, it's because we're a playoff team now.
Yeah,
we don't got time to be trying to babysit.
You don't have
guys
to.
On the team and waste a roster spot for 3 years before this guy figures it out.
Listen, there's a potential that we draft Sharif Cooper and then we sign a Kyle Lowry or a Chris Paul or something like that. We could sign a point guard, and then you're still talking about the same type deal where you have a guy that it's not even babysitting. He's just not going to be developing on the court. He's going to be developing behind the scenes.
I expect Sharif Cooper, if we draft him, to come off the bench for the first year.
No, but
I'm expecting.
But I'm saying there's a potential that we're talking about him not even playing if we sign the right people. Like if you tell me that we can sign Kyle Lowry or Chris Paul and bring back Derrick Rose, I'm not saying, well, don't do that because I want to pick Sharif Cooper's on the team. Like, I'm saying do that because that gets you closer to a championship now than waiting to see what Sharif Cooper does. I would still want Sharif Cooper on the team. I think that Sharif Cooper would have a lot to learn from those 2 point guards specifically. And I wouldn't be mad that he doesn't get time on the court. I just think that you have to kind of slowly develop him. And that's it. I wouldn't be mad at it. Just like if you have Zaire Williams, you could sign 2 small forwards and have, you're not like, I wouldn't want us to sign 2 small forwards to completely take his time. I would want him to get maybe like 5 minutes a game. But it's the same type deal where the draft, just because you draft a guy doesn't mean that you're babysitting. It just depends on what you do with the rest of your roster. I'm not scared to draft a guy who needs a little work. I just want to know that they're going to put in that work. That's one. And that I don't have to worry about them forgetting whatever it is that they learned on the court the way that Kevin Knox sometimes did. Those are my 2 concerns. If you're telling me that you have a high motor and you have a high work ethic and you have potential, I don't care if you didn't show amazing stats in college if you have the potential to be an all-star, which I think Zaire Williams does.
Hey, this is the last thing we're going to talk about with the draft, I think, right? So I might as well just add this little point in. This front office has done their research and they've done their homework. So this is the last episode you'll hear before the draft happens.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever happens, I trust whoever is going to be on this roster on the next episode. Do you feel like I'm going to regret saying that next episode?
Say that one more time.
I'm satisfied and I'm happy with whoever is going to be on this roster within this next episode because the draft is on Thursday. So by next episode, we already had the draft, and I'm saying now I'm happy with whoever we picked because I already have I have that much confidence in this front office in terms of this draft.
There is a small percentage chance that the Knicks do something that I'm gonna look sideways at. And
I don't think so.
Question, because I think that there are guys. We've heard the trade rumors that the Knicks are looking to trade up into the top 14, and I just wish I knew what they knew. I wish I knew who they think is worth trading up for and what they would be willing to trade up for them. If you're telling me that you're, as Jonathan Macri has kind of insinuated, looking to trade up for Davion Mitchell, I don't know how happy I would be with that.
He's the closest thing to Donovan Mitchell, I think.
I like Davion Mitchell a lot. Davion Mitchell is just a tier below that. If they're there at 19, take him behind Jared Butler and Sharif Cooper. But he's not. I don't trade up for him. And I don't think there's a chance that I think that he is going to get taken before 19. I really do think that, but I don't. Yeah, just like Trey Murphy could get picked before 19, I wouldn't trade up for Trey Murphy. That's just me.
Yeah, me either. I'm not trading up for anybody.
Keon Johnson is another guy who they could trade up for. I'm not doing that. I would rather you stay where you're at. James Bouknight. I think
nice.
I think we both said that we wouldn't trade up for James Bouknight.
Nice,
I'm on the edge. I'm gonna backtrack some things that I've said. I'm on the edge. I don't think that I would hate it as much as I think I would hate trading up for Davion Mitchell. But
it depends on what we traded. I'd be happy if we had James Bouknight, but if we got to trade so much to get him, then I don't want him.
Well, I don't think you. Unlike for Moses Moody, I think Bouknight is going to get picked after Moody. I don't think that the trade.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's only going to be like one pick or two picks below. I don't think it's going to be like he's going to fall to 14 or 13. I still think that you have to give a lot, and I still don't think that the Knicks can pick up to get James Bouknight. But the likelihood of him falling to 14, 15 is a lot higher than Moses Moody, I think. And
I could see it.
yeah, like I think if you ask me, I think Moody would get picked at like 8, and then Book Knight would get picked at like 9, 10, which would be just out of range of what the Knicks can offer that I would be happy with. But I could also see a scenario that he falls to 14, and then you don't have to give up as much.
Yeah, there's no definitive like draft picks from after 2.
Let me see who else.
In my opinion,
there's a guy I have. Like I started trying to do a big board, which I think I am gonna try and like actually do this week, but I'm not. I don't have any slideshows or any charts to show you guys this week. Sorry, but I might actually post something or link something later this week where we actually do a big board, something that you can look at and see the strengths and weaknesses of everybody. But one guy I keep forgetting, and I just forgot his name. I'll remember it later. Who else do I have here? Cam Thomas, Usman Garuba, Alperen Sengun, Corey Kispert, Jalen Johnson, Jaden Springer, Kessler Edwards, JT Thor, Josh Primo, Isaiah Todd, Ayo Dosunmu. Who's that guy? We talked about him last week too. Oh, there was a guy that I wanted to talk about besides him too. Oh, Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner is probably going to go in the top 20. And if he's there at 19, would you take him? Yeah, I think he's going to be good.
I think he's going to be good, but it's about what we need. And I don't know. I'd rather have Cooper probably.
I agree with that.
Just because we've had to watch such bad point guard play for so long.
I just feel like I think that we are both very high on Cooper. But if I take my standing, of Sharif Cooper out of the hat for a bit, I think that I would be able to admit that the path for him being a bust is still higher than some of these other guys, and I think his path to being a bust is higher than Franz Wagner.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either, but I have to admit that his size and the finishing potentially being an issue in the league, and just because the hitch in his shot is most likely gone, doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a good 3-point shooter in the league. I think that we're just automatically assuming that all of the things that we know to be true are going to translate to the NBA, and that's the thing about the draft, is that you can think that all you want until you show up in the NBA and show up in an NBA game and play in front of these big crowds and play against other NBA talent. There's really no telling how you're going to be until you actually show up on the court. I think the fact that he's an elite passer is going to mitigate everything. And I think you do too. And I think we both think that the dribble, the handle is real. And it's going to mitigate anything else.
If he shoots 40% from 3 and has a consistent floater, he's an all-star.
Right. I agree with that. But
there's nothing to talk about.
But we can also say if the problems that showed up in college still remain problems in the NBA, he could be a bust. And we don't think that's going to happen. But it's not about what we think. It's about what's going to happen. And we can't tell the future. We're not.
I can tell you.
We're not psychics.
It's not going to happen.
Well, you've said a lot of things.
Hold me to it.
You've said a lot of things are going to happen that didn't happen. So if you want me to hold you to it, fuck it.
Hold me to it. All right, look. What episode is this?
18.
Episode 18 of season 2. Let's revisit this.
Very good. So one guy that I forgot to just double check this before I spoke on it. I was going to 100% say for my 32nd pick, Rocco Percussion. You ever looked him up?
But yeah, he took his name out the draft though.
And probably for good reason. He'll probably be a lottery pick next year.
Next year, yeah.
But if he was still there,
Hopefully.
if he's still there at 32, I would want the Knicks to make that pick hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. Him, Franz Wagner, and Blazenberg.
Franz
Blazenberg. Those three guys kind of are in the same kind of vein.
He's from England, right?
I don't
Not
know.
England. You know where.
I don't know where none of them are from. Because, yeah.
I'll tell you right now.
But Rocco, I think, was the youngest out of all of them and showed high upside and could do a lot of shit at his size. And I was like, yo, if he's there at 32, take him. I don't even care if you have to stash him for a year, whatever you got to do. But that was going to originally be my 32nd pick. But he pulled his name from the draft. And, yeah, that was the only thing that I want to talk about as far as guys we didn't talk about.
I think he's Belgian.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, sorry.
All right, so that's...
We said it last week.
That's it for draft shit.
No. Last bit of draft news was good news for us because it's based around guys that we just spent talking about for this last hour. Jonathan Macri reports, according to a league source, that the Knicks have had several notable players in for a workout, including Trey Murphy III, Trey Mann, and Isaiah Jackson from Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Good news for me, because if we can snag Isaiah Jackson or who I picked at 21 last week?
Kai Jones.
Kai Jones. I'm happy with either one of those picks at 21, so I'm happy to see that these are the guys that we've been working out. And we also had a solo workout with Chris Duarte that we spoke on earlier in the podcast. I don't really love his game. He's good, but I don't want to spend our draft pick on him.
Chris Duarte is a pick that I would want the Knicks to pick if they were drafting in the first round after 21.
Right.
Now, he could potentially get picked before 19 by one of those teams that are like good.
Mm-hmm.
I played around with the idea of making him my 21st pick because he's that good. He's one of the most efficient scorers coming in the draft. But like I said, he's 24. But I was paying so much attention to how being efficient on offense is just key to being a really good NBA team, especially if you want to make it to the finals, especially if you want to make it to the conference finals. You have to be an efficient shooting team. And the Knicks were not really an efficient shooting team last season. So I was looking at guys like Corey Kispert, Chris Duarte. Those guys were in the top of the draft in terms of efficient scoring. So I was like, yeah, maybe we should get Sharif and Chris Duarte. I don't know.
I ain't gonna be mad. As long as we address the biggest issues, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. Like, if we was to pick Chris Duarte, I don't want to still have holes in the roster that we need to address. I want all the holes to be plugged before we pick up a Chris Duarte.
Right.
And if he can help plug one of those holes, then yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, he would. Would he be like the splashy name or the... No, he wouldn't. But I don't think that you could quibble too much if he's on this Knicks team.
I ain't gonna be mad.
Now, if it was like Chris Duarte and Kai Jones are our picks, I might quibble a little bit because it's like...
I'd be a little mad about that.
Yeah, I'd quibble a little bit about it. But we won't know until next week. And I know you'd be mad if Sharif Cooper's on the board at 19 and 21 and the Knicks don't pick him. I know you'd be mad about that.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah, which is why I'm like, let's not say stuff about how we're going to feel about the draft before the draft actually happens. Because I could see that happening too. I could see the Knicks not picking Sharif Cooper at 19 or 21.
Well, then I would just feel like they know something that we don't. If he doesn't show out in his rookie year and the guy that we picked does, then I'm going to just look like an idiot. So I'm going to just bite my tongue and just say, I trust this front office.
All right. My last piece of news, there was more news that maybe we haven't even talked about. There was news article from Mark Berman in the New York Post where he was talking about Reggie Bullock.
Frankie.
No, he was talking about Reggie Bullock. Frankie was just a small part. But he said, if the Knicks lose Reggie Bullock, they'd be more likely to attempt to match a modest offer to Frank Ntilikina. Now, the reason why he said that, Reggie is gaining interest from the Lakers, Celtics, and the 76ers in free agency. So,
Hey now.
if they... Let me ask you a question. If it takes the mid-level exception to bring Reggie Bullock back...
Yes. Oh, no, my bad. I thought you were going to say Frank. Bring Frank back at any cost necessary.
Whoa. All right.
Give him the max.
So I guess you're going to answer my next question after that. You don't want Reggie Bullock at the mid-level.
Well, I'm fine with bringing Reggie Bullock back as long as we have Frank to bring back with
But
us.
if it takes the mid-level exception, which
Which is like $8 million, ain't it?
$8 mil a year.
Yeah, give him that. He deserved it.
Okay.
And I feel like
I'm
there's a lot of reports that saying that he wants a lot more than
okay. So
we would offer, and he want to come back. I feel like personally.
I think he
feel
wants.
like
I think he does want to come back. I
he
do
built
think that
something here.
I do think that unless somebody blows us out of the water, it probably will take the mid-level exception to bring Reggie back. But here's why I'm like, and now I'm back to asking you this question that I thought I knew the answer to. Is Reggie Jackson, which is another guy that I wanted to talk about, but we can talk about him another time.
Yeah,
Is Reggie Bullock that much better than Frank?
yeah,
In terms of what?
consistency.
Do we know that, though?
Yeah,
How?
it's been shown when players went down this year and Frank had his opportunity throughout the season. He would have flashes, but he never had a streak of games where he was hot.
He also didn't really play that many streaks of games. Like, even when he
That's
had...
not true.
The game...
Alfred had cramps for a while.
No, that... Yeah, and?
I mean, not cramps. He had some type of leg injury I completely forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
But Frank has had opportunities throughout the season to play. And
I agree with that.
he didn't provide what he normally does provide when he's at his highest level of play. When Reggie Bullock is hot, it lasts several games. It wins you a couple games. And it's a reason for that. It's a reason why he's in the starting five. It's a reason why they want to bring him back. He's the priority rather than Frank. But I still love Frank's potential. And I feel like his potential is higher than what Reggie Bullock brings for the next 4 years.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm on Basketball Reference. Like, he played the first 4 games of the season, and then he didn't play again up until the 33rd game. He didn't get any. He was inactive. Then he just didn't play. Then he was inactive.
But he also got hurt.
Then he also didn't play. Yeah, that was the inactives. He got hurt in the early season, and then he didn't play. Then he was inactive again. And then he played in the 33rd game. He got 23 minutes, was a plus 17, had 7 points. Then he got 10 minutes the next game. And then he got 12 minutes the next game. Then he got 24 minutes. Like, it... I don't know if I could say, like, oh, we know that Reggie Bullock is more consistent, because Reggie Bullock didn't have he didn't score every single game. The only thing that was consistent about Reggie was his defense, and we could especially say that for the playoffs. The playoffs, he showed up for what, 1.5 games, like. Really, old Reggie, and I'm gonna try to stop slandering Reggie because he definitely was one of the key parts in this for us this season. But really, what we needed from Reggie was to be able to guard the guy that RJ couldn't, and to hit threes. And I feel like when Frank was playing more consistently, he was more likely to hit the three. So
He also fouled a lot too, though.
yeah, I'll give you that.
It's all about consistency.
I'll-
When you get the chance to play, you got to stay on the floor.
I'll give you that, but I just feel like if you put Frank in that Reggie role, maybe he fouls out more. Maybe he doesn't give you that staying on the court with the like without fouling shit that Reggie Bullock did. But I also think that where he lacks, he more than makes up in other areas of the game with his playmaking, with his ability to put the ball on the floor, with his ability to hit, now his newfound ability to hit a step back. And
when he's
and Reggie Bullock never really tried to drive into the paint, whereas at least Frank, even with his non-confident ass, we've definitely seen him try to go to the paint and yam it on somebody at least a couple times. So I think I say all that to say that if it takes more than the mid-level, I don't bring back Reggie Bullock, especially when I think that you can have Frank for less than the mid-level. I would rather you put Frank in that Reggie Bullock role and run it that way, even if you don't pick up all the free agents in the world. If we have a losing season, I would rather have a losing season with Frank, RJ, Julius Randle, pick a point guard, and Mitch than Bullock again, because we already know that he's a bench guy more so than a starting guy.
Yeah,
just like Frank, but
both of them.
Just like Frank, but I think Frank just offers you more of a dynamic. That's just me, though.
No argument there.
We got anything left to talk about? Oh, yes, one more thing.
Scott P., general manager of the New York Knicks, Scott Perry, earned himself a 2-year extension. Thoughts about it?
Don't care.
Really?
I don't.
I feel like he earned that.
I don't know what he's done, honestly. I don't know what he's done. The whole Steve Mills era, how much of that can we put on Scott Perry? How much can we put on Steve Mills? And then
since Steve Mills been gone, it's been nothing but success.
And but can we say that's Scott Perry, or can we say that's all the other additions that we've added to the front office? And
well, the fact that he's getting a 2-year extension proves that he had something to do with it.
I think that it's more of a consistency. Like how the Knicks kept playing certain lineups all throughout the year because being consistent, it works. I think Scott Perry does offer something valuable. I do. I don't think that Scott Perry is just getting picked up just because of the consistency. He's not the Elfrid Payton of the Knicks front office. I don't care. I think that he earned it. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah. I think that it makes sense to bring him back for 2 years. But outside of that, I don't really have much to say about it. Like if he'd have left, I'd have been good. They brought him back. I'm good. I don't care.
Questionable move that Scott Perry has made in the last year was signing Elfrid Payton. Every other free agent signing it made sense. Even Austin Rivers, you see what he did on another team, it made sense. He's talented. You want to see what he can bring to this team, and they didn't expect quickly to show out like he did this year. And when they brought Derrick Rose in, it just took away Austin Rivers' spot. But Austin Rivers was hooping on other teams, and he had games where he was hooping for us too. Reggie Bullock had key moments throughout the year. Nerlens Noel stepped up and became the starting center, and it didn't slow the team down one bit. That's all because of Scott Perry. I feel like he's a GM, so I'm giving him the credit. The 2 draft picks, the Obi Toppin, even though there's other players that we probably could have drafted in place of Obi Toppin, we still see signs from Obi Toppin to show that he's going to be able to provide for us something positively. He's a rotational player in the playoffs, and he looked like one of the best rotational pieces during the playoffs. So it's too early to just, you know what I'm saying? The jury's still out. But Emmanuel Quickly, steal of the draft.
I just don't know. Yes, I think that was Scott Perry's pick. But in totality, the way that I understand the way that this front office works, Scott Perry doesn't have final say. I think that we can say that
we knew that before too.
I think that we could, all the roses that we're giving Scott Perry, I think we need to pull up rose from that and give one to Walt Perrin, give one to Brock Aller. We need to give a few of them to Leon Rose.
It's working.
You know what I mean? Yeah, he's a part of the system, and I think that we can give him the credit for that. But if he was no longer part of the system because Leon Rose decided that, okay, there's another guy that I trust more for the same kind of role, I would have been good with it. There's not, outside of a pick, I don't know how much credit I want to give him. So that's where I'm going to leave it.
He's getting credit from me.
He gets a little, just not all. I'm not going to make it seem like our success is wholly due to him. I'm not saying that. I'm gonna give him like a 10% credit. I think Brock Aller had a lot of input into certain things, and some of our moves last year were definitely Brock Aller moves, and they helped. Yeah, but they helped us.
Julius Randle's on his team because of Scott Perry.
Okay.
R.J. Barrett's on his team because of Scott Perry.
I don't know if I would go that far. I think R.J. Barrett would be on this team regardless because he was the pick.
Don't do that. You know our history. Don't do that. We've always struggled in the draft. Even if there's an obvious pick, we don't always make the obvious pick.
We don't always make the obvious pick, but who else would you pick? If you don't pick R.J. Barrett, you probably get fired. I don't care. Any other GM in the league is making that pick. You don't get credit for picking R.J. Barrett when the other consensus top 3 picks were already picked before him. It's a no-brainer. You have to pick R.J. at that point. So I don't give him that credit.
All I'm saying is I'm not going to not give you credit for making the right pick. So he's the GM. These are all the things that happened in his tenure here. We can say, oh, he got help from him, and him. It's an obvious pick. But these are all a collection of good moves that led to this team being the 4th seed.
So who fired?
I'm not going to ignore that.
Who hired David Fizdale?
Mills. Everything bad happened because of
Mills. Oh, everything bad that happened because of Steve Mills. Yeah, okay.
Yep. Because you see, ain't nothing bad happened since he been gone.
I could say nothing bad happened since we hired Leon Rose. And that's who I would give most of the roses to at this point. Because some bad shit definitely happened when Scott Perry was there. Whether you want to say,
as a direct influence of Scott Perry?
We don't know. We don't know how much of it was Scott Perry. We don't know how much of it is Steve Mills.
That's why you got to just list it.
If you can't say, especially when we know for a fact that since Leon Rose has been, in charge, he hasn't been saying, Scott Perry, you make the choice. We know that for a fact. Whereas we don't know whether Steve Mills said that when he was in charge or not. But if he did, it's a very big indictment on Scott Perry. And if he didn't, I don't think you can clearly say everything bad that happened was because of Steve Mills. Scott Perry doesn't have a spotless record before the Knicks either. So,
but no GM does.
Exactly.
Every GM makes mistakes and they have bad picks that they could have drafted a star instead of. But
exactly,
as long as you make enough of the right moves and the right picks and right trades. Think about all the trades that happened last year in the draft. Scott Perry was the GM. So I'm giving him the credit because
all I'm saying
these things were executed in his tenure as the Knicks.
All I'm saying is to say ain't nothing bad happened since Steve Mills was fired. That doesn't mean that Scott Perry should get all of the roses. I think we should give all of the roses.
All of them.
I think we should give all of the roses to Leon Rose, and then if he wants to dole them out, which he's doled, this is him giving roses to Scott Perry for his contribution.
Exactly.
Leon Rose I trust. Scott Perry can come and go. I think that if Scott Perry goes, Leon Rose will put somebody who's just as capable or more capable in his spot. That's how I
He
feel.
had the opportunity to.
He did. He didn't want to, and that says a lot about
Exactly
Scott
my
Perry.
point.
That says a lot about Scott Perry. But like I said,
Exactly my point.
I don't care that much because I trust Leon Rose. I don't necessarily trust Scott Perry because I know that every single one of his decisions, he has no agency on whether it gets done or not. Leon Rose has the agency, which is how I prefer it. I prefer Leon Rose to have the agency as opposed to Scott Perry. Yeah. You got anything to plug?
Nah, I'm ready to unplug.
I'm very ready to unplug. We have gone way over 2 hours. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for listening to our draft choices, who we pick at all of these spots.
Hi, Ma.
I will try to have some other kind of visual attachment that's not going to be part of the YouTube, but something, maybe a link or something that we could go to. Maybe I'll actually get the website up and running so you can actually look at stuff. I'm going to work on something. But
the draft board can go on the website.
Exactly.
Instead of making it in a PowerPoint.
Exactly. So I'm going to work on that. If you see it, we'll post it on the Twitter and the Facebook. If not, then obviously I didn't have enough time to do it. But I'm going to do something. Otherwise, thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. We love you guys. Make sure you
around the world.
subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure you like. Make sure you listen to us on your favorite podding platforms, Spotify, TuneIn Radio,
Stitcher,
all of that. Apple, Google, all the stuff. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Mixtape Podcast.
You got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, what it do?
That intro music was Broadway Boo by Gotti B, formerly known as Bugatti Blade. You can find us on Twitter at The Knicks Take. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.